Four perennial college lacrosse powers are in the Big Apple for the third annual Big City Classic at the Meadowlands. First, 9-time national champion winner Johns Hopkins takes on 4-time title winner North Carolina. Then Syracuse faces off with Duke in a meeting of the last two national champions. 4 of the top 6 teams in the nation are on display at the Big City Classic. Next. Welcome to the Konica Minolta Big City Classic. And whether you call it Columbia Blue or Carolina Blue, it is out in full force in New Jersey for Game 1 as number 5 North Carolina is set to meet number 6 Johns Hopkins for the 40th time. Hello and welcome to the Meadowlands. I'm Eamon McEnany along with the All-American goalie out of Johns Hopkins, Quint Kesnick, and the 2006 Tewaaraton Trophy winner from Virginia, Matt Ward. And oh, what a difference a big upset over a top 10 opponent makes, because Quint, just a couple of weeks ago, the experts, all right, us, thought this might have been a game of knockout.
I think that's what you said, actually. I tell you, momentum in college lacrosse is huge, and from week to week it can really shift. Both these teams coming off high water mark last week. Carolina with a big win down at Maryland. Hopkins played their best 60 minutes in, 2.5, 3 years, taking down Virginia. So both teams coming in with great momentum.
And it might be even more appropriate to play this game in an East Rutherford Daycare Center because, Matt, both teams relying heavily on sophomores and freshmen.
These are two of the youngest programs in the country. Johns Hopkins starts 8 of 10 starters are underclassmen, and North Carolina has youth all over the field, and they're led by the super talented freshman Nicky Galasso out of West Islip, Long Island, who just does everything well. And what he's so good at is he extends the defense with his range as a shooter. He's crafty inside near the goal, but his vision and transition opportunities, it's just unbelievable. He has 20 assists on the season to lead the North Carolina team.
And for Johns Hopkins, Rob Guida providing a spark.
Well, you talk about a 5'9" freshman midfielder from New Jersey with a great change of direction. This kid can stop on a dime. Excellent hands, but what's most impressive to me is fearlessness. He takes the ball right to the heart of the defense. He had 2 key goals against Virginia. Johns Hopkins, freshman impact players. Guida is fleet of feet. Phil Castronova, the great defensive midfielder, also some speed. And then Jack Riley at 6'3", 215 pounds. He's about as good as it gets as a freshman defender.
And for North Carolina, we mentioned Nicky Galasso can do it all, but he's joined by Pat Foster, who can play midfield and attack, and then R.J. Keenan, already one of the best face-off guys in the country, winning over 63% of his face-offs.
Those are our impact players, brought to you by Warrior. Keenan, the freshman, number 25, going up against the senior, Matt Delente, number 5. Hopkins in the road, Columbia Blue. North Carolina in the home white, number 5 against number 6. North Carolina's won 4 straight over the Blue Jays. Keenan down, Delente down. We are underway, and a quick whistle, a violation on the rookie. Johns Hopkins will go to work first. So now they make some substitutions. John Greeley onto the field, number 9. He was dinged up a week ago against Virginia, so good to see for Johns Hopkins that the sophomore out of upstate New York ready to go.
Carolina starts out in a man-to-man defense. They'll mix and match all day.
Here's Guida. Now he goes behind to Kyle Wharton, the senior out of Philadelphia. Here's Greeley. John Rannigan taking a run at Staines. Rannigan gets his hands free but goes behind instead to Palmer. Feed inside, catch made. The Blue Jays lead.
And that's just a great team goal by Johns Hopkins. It all starts with Rannigan dodging hard north-south, and then he finds the open attackman behind, has his head up, and Wharton right-handed. That could be potentially the first of his career with his offhand. He is an absolute sniper from the outside, but shows he's crafty in the middle of the field as well.
Not exactly his calling card inside on the crease, but he'll take it as he had not scored a point in the last 2 games. Keenan now gets even with Delente, and the Tar Heels go to work on offense. This is Nicky Galasso being guarded by the sophomore Tucker Durkin, and Thomas Woods, number 2, back onto the field for North Carolina. He missed the Dartmouth and Maryland game.
Tell you, Jack Riley, 3 consecutive weeks covering JoJo Marasco of Syracuse. Last week, they actually bumped him up top to cover Shamel Bratton at the midfield a bit, and today he draws the senior draft pick in Major League Lacrosse, Billy Bitter, one of the toughest left-handers to cover in the country.
Bitter, the 3rd overall pick in the Major League Lacrosse draft by the Denver Outlaws. This is him with the ball right now. A senior out of Manhasset, New York. This is Jimmy Dunster taking a run at Castronova. He goes behind. Galasso open, looking to feed. Step down opportunity. Hutchins can't put it on Cage, and Riley wins the race to the end line. Hopkins ball. Quint, what are some of your keys for Johns Hopkins in this one?
Well, Dave Petromalo wants to make this an MMA cage match. Physical play all over the field on ground balls, defensively take the body. And I think offensively we'll see Carolina play both man and zone. They'll use some of their junk defenses. Very important that Hopkins recognizes defense and then attacks appropriately. If I had a 3rd key, it would be this aspect right here. The clearing game is Carolina will throw a 10-man ride at Johns Hopkins.
Burkhardt on the clear. That's what you took out of the conference call, MMA? All I heard was grind and not let him play finesse. You're throwing it in a steel cage match just like that?
It was the tone, not the words, but the tone of Coach Petromala's 8 a.m. voice.
Quint knows that tone very well, playing with Coach Petromala during their days together at Johns Hopkins, winning a championship in Quint's freshman year.
Bitter and Dunster. Jimmy Dunster must penetrate.
How did that get by Steven Restivo? Hopkins out to the early 2-goal lead.
Slow starts have plagued Carolina this season. Fell behind Princeton 3-0, fell behind Maryland 4-0, and they're flat-footed off the bus today. Burkhardt, just too easy. Didn't even draw the double team. It looked like Goodrich just got topside on his man and was able to catch and finish. Soft interior defense.
Goodrich coming alive. The senior out of Massachusetts went to the Rivers School. Quint, I think it's fair to point out those 2 games you mentioned, North Carolina coming back and winning both of them. So they've been in this not foreign territory for the Heels at all, but another face-off violation on the rookie. R.G. Keenan bursting onto the scene with an 18 of 22 performance in a come-from-behind victory over Navy. Humbled a little bit last week on the road in Maryland, but the Heels taking the victory nevertheless. So now Greeley and Rannigan back out there. Quinn, I bet one of your keys for UNC was play well early, but that one's gone.
Yeah, that one's gone, and they're sitting back in their zone for the first time. Billy Bitter and Jimmy Dunster, to me, the true real penetrators of this Carolina offense. A team that is a pass first, prefer the assisted goal than they are isolation goals. And then the 10-man ride. I thought last week Hopkins was a little vulnerable in clearing situations.
Rannigan can't bring it in. We're seeing a little bit of a wrinkle in this junk defense, if you were. As you see, they have a short stick jumping out on Wharton. Wharton already has a goal already inside. Now Palmer. Here's Greeley coming from the wing. Palmer makes the catch. Rannigan brings it in this time, but again, second time he wasn't able to get the shot off.
Carolina has two different zone defenses, a Cowboy zone and a Joker zone. This is the one, to me, that looks like a 1-3-2 type zone.
So there's a stall warning on Hopkins. They now have to keep it in the box. And Matt, we heard Coach Petromala this week talk about it on the conference call. How difficult is it to prepare for defenses that are always changing?
It's tough because it kind of takes you out of rhythm. And a lot of teams like to draw that slide, and they're switching it up and you don't know where the slide's coming from. It's tough to execute your offense. But Coach Petromala thinks he's put in a good game plan where they can run any type of offense against any defense they're facing at one point.
A message from offensive coordinator Robbie Benson this week: don't be so concerned about what they're doing, be more concerned about how we're playing. Rannigan with another good look, wants to get a better angle, and it works. 3-0 Johns Hopkins.
And that's just great execution by Johns Hopkins against that zone defense. Skip passes kill zone defenses, and right here you can see a nice job. Palmer keeps his head up, feeds to Randy. He doesn't get the shot right away, but takes that extra step and runs through that out-of-control defensive player and just fires it to the top portion of the cage.
I'll tell you one thing, Hopkins will attack the zone better than Maryland did last week. Rannigan got 2 looks on that possession. That ball, as you said, the skip pass, can't get through those defensive sticks.
Just like a week ago, the Tar Heels fall behind early and have to take an early timeout. The Blue Jays flying high in Game 1 of the Big City Classic, up by 3. Here in the New York metropolitan area, Johns Hopkins has grabbed this one by the throat early as the Blue Jays have a 3-0 lead. Joe Bresci coaching his alma mater in his 3rd year with a record of 32-11 after 11 successful seasons with Ohio State. Earlier this year, he made a goalie switch after he didn't like how the Duke game went. Steven Restivo put into the net, and so far he's responded with 2 double-digit saves and 2 North Carolina victories. But right now, things not going North Carolina's way.
No big deal. You're a young goalie. You got to move on. It's the next shot that counts. I've been impressed with Restivo's footwork. He floats, and he's got quick hands. He really moves well from pipe to pipe.
Delente and Keenan again. Keenan wins it back. Now it's a scrum. And Castronova comes up with a ground ball. Johns Hopkins looking to get in the box.
Ground balls.
Smith.
Aim and tell the story for both teams this year in wins and losses, the ground ball margin. Carolina struggles in their losses against Ohio State and Duke in that department. Same with Johns Hopkins.
Wharton now. It's 4-0. As my colleague wrote in Inside Lacrosse this month, when he has time and room, the goalie turns and rakes.
We thought he could be the zone buster today if Carolina doesn't respect him on the perimeter. The hash marks are different in an NFL stadium. They're more narrow as opposed to the college game. And this is one where Wharton just flexes his muscles and lets it rip from about 13.
It looked like he caught North Carolina off guard. They were kind of getting into their zone set, and he just said, you know what, you're not going to play me at that 12, 15-yard range. I'm just going to step in and fire it.
A carbon copy of last week as Joe Bresci has to call a timeout right after he takes his first. The Tar Heels are out of timeouts. Dave Petromalo's club up by 4. We'll be back to New Jersey right after this. This is the 3rd annual Konica Minolta Big City Classic from the Meadowlands in New Jersey. Johns Hopkins has a 4-0 lead. And speaking of lacrosse in New Jersey, ESPNU's coverage of college lacrosse continues next Saturday afternoon as the #1 Syracuse Orange take on the Princeton Tigers. Old Spice College Lacrosse on ESPNU Saturday at 4 Eastern. That game will be played at Class of 1952 Stadium on the campus of Princeton University. The Tigers getting a much-needed win yesterday over Brown in the Ivy League. Are they still playing? That game finally just finished. What, go 3-4 overtimes? The Tigers will take it. It's been a rough go of things for Chris Bates, and Delente loses it. We got a yard sale in East Rutherford, and Galasso comes up with a ground ball. So, Matt, now North Carolina, a much critical possession, and they'll take a quick shot. I didn't even get a time to ask you the question. Easy save for Bassett. Transition, Donovan. Errant pass. He had Wharton on the wing.
First mistake for the Blue Jays today. Otherwise, they've played a perfect 7 minutes. Last week, they showed the ability Johns Hopkins did to score in transition, to score off of face-offs, to score an extra man. I was most impressed with the variety of ways that they were able to generate offense against Virginia.
And this is a young team gaining composure and confidence. It's something that has been interesting and fun to watch as the season develops. These players are now, the freshmen playing like sophomores like juniors, and they're really taking control of this team.
That's what North Carolina thought happened last week in that come-from-behind win over Maryland. Coach Bresci said if they're not going to play with confidence now, when's it going to happen? Here's the sophomore Marcus Holman with the ball, being guarded by New Jersey resident Ori Michael. Now Wood.
And right now you see Holman's getting the long stick. I think obviously you want to test Bitter on the freshman as well, but I look for Duncan.
There you go. Bitter got a step and snuck it in, and the Tar Heels are on the board.
That's what you want if you're Joe Brescia. Your senior steps up on a key possession. Stop the bleeding, change the momentum of the game. Bitter is so good at getting you to run away from the goal, and Riley having to deal with the pick just took a horrible angle to go outside that pick, and Bitter able to run straight to the net.
When you play Billy Bitter, you want to force him up the field. He is so good at getting underneath and then cutting up and creating angle. Right there, Riley didn't do his job, and Billy Bitter made him pay. Bitter
coming off his second double bagel of the season, but both coaches this week thought it was coming. Thought they'd see the Billy Bitter that we're used to seeing coming back to his form. He missed all of fall after dealing with some injuries at the end of last year, but both coaches thought they saw his A game on its way. So now Galasso. Galasso with 2 goals and 5 assists a week ago against Maryland.
I tell you, Riley has never seen what he's going to see over the next 40 or so minutes from Bitter. It's like putting the fast forward button on and trying to stay up with it.
And the thing with Bitter, you mentioned the double bagels. He's facing experienced defensive players who know that that's his strength. And for Riley, this is, like you said, no one with quickness like Billy Bitter as he faced. And it's going to be a tough matchup for him all day long. I imagine UNC is going to really go after him.
Here's Hutchins being guarded by Donovan. He gets it over to Holman. Holman draws the graduate student Ben Smith. Played at Harvard undergrad. Now here's Bitter again, getting a pick from Dunster. Bitter with the stutter step, looking for it. Good recovery by Riley. Bitter, though, still wants it. Now he gives it up. So Riley makes a stand there.
Bitter would prefer to stop and roll back there as opposed to taking that ball left-handed to the middle of the field.
Now Dunster from the wing on Castronova. Moves it along to Galasso. Carolina's first real extended possession of the ball game. Galasso gets away with a ward. Good battle here between Galasso and Durkin. Another one-on-one matchup won by the Blue Jays. Hutchins, Castronova. Good recovery by Castronova as he fell down.
Nice closeout by Castronova on the rollback by Hutchins.
Bitter gets a pick. Now double team, tries to split it. Big pop by Donovan. Bitter still goes and scores. Signature Billy Bitter makes it a 2-goal ball game.
We mentioned Billy Bitter would rather stop and come underneath. Hopkins actually does a nice job of forcing him into a double team when he brings the ball in front of his stick right here. Yet the strength in the forearm grip and maybe a good strong tight pocket with a lot of width enables him to hold the ball and then finish with an empty netter.
It's a good double team right here, but you got to pinch him down, and when you make that check, Matt, you have to take that stick below the waist, if not down to the knees, if you want to get the ball to dislodge.
What a career the senior out of Manhasset has had for the Tar Heels.
And that was an excellent slide by Hopkins in concept, but they didn't come with the body, and you really got to pinch them together and don't let them get through the double team. But that's what Billy Bitter can do. He can make plays when he should really be losing the ball.
That player portfolio brought to you by Sector Spiders. It was kind of in this event last year against Virginia where his season took a huge turn after a start that made it look like he was going to run away with the Tewaaraton.
And Bitter's career numbers really show that, Eamon. First part of his career, monster point totals. You look, the first 43 career games, 3 points a game, 10 5-point games. Since that big hit, very steady production, but none of those explosive outings. You know, coaches talk about his health. Last year was a huge issue in the second half of the season, battling multiple injuries. I asked Coach Brescia if he felt he was 100%. He said yes, he is 100%.
You talk about those first 43-point games. The one that always stands out is the first round of the NCAA tournament against UMBC as a sophomore, pumped in 8 goals in a postseason game. And the Tar Heels have it back with under 6 minutes to play in the first quarter.
That was 2009. At the end, in May in 2009, Billy Bitter was unstoppable.
There's a big hit by Burkhardt on the freshman Foster. And Riley comes up with a ground ball. Interference on the Blue Jays gives it right back to North Carolina with under 5.5 to play. So in the sport of lacrosse, obviously, no lead is safe. A sport of runs. The Tar Heels with a chance to pull within one after it looked like they were going to get blown out here. This is Eddie Prevost, a senior out of upstate New York, taking Donovan behind on the invert. Durkin gives a reminder whack.
This is not going to be the matchup for North Carolina, in my opinion. See if Donovan's just too big and strong for Prevost.
If you're going to attack Donovan, you want to go after a big guy as well. He can manhandle those smaller guys like a Prevost. You know, if he's matched up on a Dunster, maybe that's what you go at because he's a big, fast athlete.
And there Donovan shows his strength as Prevost hits the turf. Now Golasso looking to feed. There's a shot off someone's noggin. Matt Davey, the senior out of Syosset, New York, getting the shot off. There's a look at Pierce Bassett coming in, the leader in save percentage in the country, coming off two very impressive outings against the #1 and #2 teams in the country. Quint, what has Bassett shown you the last 2 weeks with 30 saves against Syracuse and Virginia?
He doesn't give up bad goals. He can't shoot the ball through him. It gets down low at 6'3", takes up a lot of the goal and forces guys to shoot for the corners and to shoot perfect shots. Been very impressed with the mental game. Always seems relaxed, makes a mistake, gets over it.
I would say Michael Gavazin, who's their goalie last year, is basically the exact opposite of him. He was very streaky. Bassett is sound, and he's always going to play his best game. That's why Coach Petromalo really has to love him.
Here's Dunster as the first midfield unit back out there. Hutchinson's with time and room, but Bassett makes the save on Duck and Hunches. Now Riley looking to start the clear. Bitter comes out on Bassett, but they get it to Castronova.
It's nice handle by both Riley and Bassett under duress. It was a pretty aggressive Carolina ride.
Now here's Rannigan.
Watch the technique of the goalie. He's on his toes. He's quick. There's no wasted motion. He's focused. Bassett doesn't guess. He gives every shot an equal chance. Doesn't take himself out of making any saves. And that was, quite honestly, not great location. Made his job pretty easy.
If you don't shoot it over 95, you might as well not bother trying to beat Bassett up top from that distance. You got to change the plane, and right there, North Carolina didn't do that. That's why he was able to make an easy save.
Guida coming off the pick, looking to get the shot off, moves it along instead. Now Palmer looking inside, skip pass to Greeley. Greeley thought about it. Good recovery defense by Michael Burns in North Carolina. Here's Rannigan being guarded by Chris Hunt.
Back to the man-to-man defense.
Wharton again. This one too high. 2:42 left to play in the opening quarter. Johns Hopkins opened up with a 4-goal run. North Carolina has crept back in it. Looks like they're trying to shut off Greeley, and there's a turnover from Rannigan. Just like his counterpart, Johns Hopkins is coached by Dave Petromalo, who's coaching his alma mater. The only man in Division I lacrosse to win a national championship as a player and a coach, coaching his 200th career game.
Said the kids this week were focused. And the big question was how both these teams would handle success after kind of marquee wins last week.
Carolina on the clear, gives it up to Holman. Holman draws the long stick of Ben Smith. Now they go behind. This is Bitter, who has 2 already.
I'm North Carolina. We've given Billy Bitter a couple runs here. I'm looking for Dunster to get a run. He's got his short stick guarding him. Johns Hopkins, it looks like they're going with Glasser, but I'd give it to him against the short stick.
Here's Hutchins on the stop down. Gets a shot off. Went low that time, just couldn't put it on cage. Now, Matt, one of the big things for North Carolina so far this year has been the chemistry on the same page, the attack, the freshman and the senior. How hard is that to develop? The ankle-breaking move from Bitter again, the spin. Oh, my gosh! There's a top 10 nominee for you. Billy Bitter going through about 3 defenders. It's a 1-goal game.
He can make you look silly. And we've seen him do this. The defender finalized like a fish in a net. Inside roll, tiptoe the crease, goalie lunges. I mean, this is like 3, 4, 5 moves into one. Look at the body control. Unbelievable.
Coach Bresci was excited for Billy Bitter. He said he hasn't been putting up the numbers, but he's there. He had the feeling, and boys, he's showing it right now.
His 14th career hat trick. I don't know what was more impressive, getting away from the defenders or staying out of the crease.
At this stage, if you're Johns Hopkins, you got to reevaluate that matchup.
Johns Hopkins 4, Billy Bitter 3. Now Castronova. Castronova driving hard. Puts on the brakes.
You know, it's amazing. We were down in Chapel Hill for the Dartmouth game a couple Tuesdays ago, and Bitter never even went to the goal. He did not ISO to the goal once that whole game. And I was sitting there saying, okay, is he saving himself? Is he hurt? Is he disinterested? And obviously, he kind of letting Galasso and the rest of the guys develop chemistry. And when the time is right today, he's shown the ability that, yeah, I can still go to the goal.
He's as dynamic as a Dodger as there is in the game of college lacrosse. Major League Lacrosse drafted 4th to Denver is going to be one. Talk about a tack line, Brennan Mundorf and him playing together. They are going to be giving defensive fits for the entire professional lacrosse season this upcoming summer.
This is Lee Coppersmith coming off his first career hat trick a week ago against Virginia. Ryan Flanagan jumps out on him. So a different look once again from North Carolina. Joe Bresci always changing it up on the defensive end. Now Flanagan floats back in towards the goal. This is Chris Boland being guarded by a short stick. Burkhart moves it along. Now Coppersmith. Looks like they're trying to shut off Boland. So Coppersmith coming from up top. Gets his hands free. Good trail check by Staines. And North Carolina wins the race. Good hustle by Michael Burns.
And that was a nice job by Burns. Recognized he was shutting Chris Boland off, and the shot went. Boland didn't see it, and Burns beat him to the end line. Just a more aware play for Burns.
And that will do it for the first quarter as Pierce Bassett grabs the long pass. Johns Hopkins scored 4 goals in the first 5 minutes and 11 seconds. Then Joe Bresci saw his senior leader, Billy Bitter, come alive. Johns Hopkins 4, North Carolina 3. We're off to a flying start in Game 1 of the Big City Classic. Dave Petramalo loved how Game 1 of the Big City Classic started as his Blue Jays scored the first 4 goals, but then, Matt, it was all Billy Bitter.
Billy Bitter is the quickest. He's like a water bug, just so stop and go. And right there, he's so good at inside getting there. And really, if he's on his game, there's not a lot of defensemen who have the foot speed to stay up with it. And that's what you love. He's kind of fearless when he goes to cage and just finishes, and he's very skilled.
The MO, the stopping Bitter, has been physical play. Hopkins has not taken the body. They have not been physical with Bitter. They've allowed him to get to the middle without being harmed. And defensively, Petramalo talked about physicality. We haven't seen it.
Johns Hopkins scored the first 4 goals as Kyle Wharton picked up his 98th and 99th career point. But Billy Bitter, with his 14th career hat trick, has made this a 1-goal game as we are ready to start the second quarter. Once again, it's Keenan against Delente. Keenan pushes it forward and then back right to Ben Smith. Still loose. Still loose. Good check on Smith. Keenan trying to keep it in bounds. Big hit by Delente there, and Wharton comes up with it. Unsettled opportunity for Wharton and the Blue Jays. Wharton has a step, shoots and fires. His 100th career point makes it 5-3 Blue Jays.
We emphasize the importance of ground balls, and this was a face-off that continued forever. They gave Hopkins possession, so Wharton was granted release. Nice man ball there. You see the Hopkins player right to left, takes the Carolina player out, and Wharton is off to the races.
And what's so impressive about that is his awareness that he could come out of the box and get involved in that face-off scrum, and then picks it up, and once he gets his hands free, there's no one better.
There was an initial possession by Hopkins. The referees give the release call, and Wharton then hustles.
After he was shut out by Syracuse, Coach Petramalo sat him down and said, "You cannot play in a phone booth." What exactly did that mean? What exactly was he trying to get across to his senior?
I think he needs Kyle Wharton to be a little more active, a little more involved in ground ball plays, a little more of a ball carrier. Although to me, Kyle Wharton is not a great dodger, so to speak. That was a nice little 3-on-2 opportunity where he said, you know what, if you're not going to play me, I can let this thing rip. He's got serious range.
And the best way for a non-dodger to get his hands free is to constantly be moving and make it the life difficult for the defenseman. And that's what I think he's talking about, kind of like a Rip Hamilton in the NBA. He's always coming off picks and getting his hands free.
Gotta run him off the screens, exactly.
He's got to be doing that, always be moving, because that's how you get your hands free for step-down shots.
Keeping his defender honest so he can get that shot off. Guida now playing with a sense of urgency. Now Wharton again. Here's Greeley on the step-down. Doesn't pull the trigger.
Very condensed Carolina defense.
Being guarded by Creighton. Greeley trying to feed inside, knocked down, and Ryan Flanagan loses it. The senior captain came up with the ground ball and then loses it right out of his stick. Here's Bolin again being guarded by the short stick. Normally attackmen behind the cage are being guarded by the long poles. Now Bolin draws the switch. Palmer all by himself behind. Restivo and the defender caught up in no man's land. Palmer can't make them pay, hitting the wrong side of the net. So Kevin Pegari out of Cold Spring Harbor picks up the ground ball. We saw Steele Stanwyck score on that exact same situation. What was it, one more step Palmer should have taken?
That was absolutely, he didn't have enough angle to get it in there. And when you have the goalie playing you better be more athletic than he is to get that extra step and where you're shooting into an empty net.
More athletic than the goalie, Quint?
Well, Matt didn't play against great athletic goalies.
Not in the ACC back in 03 and 06?
Wasn't playing against the Doc or Jimmy Beardmore. Guys who could run up and down the field. Tommy Nims.
Matt winning 2 national championships in his 4-year career with the Cavs in 03 and 06.
I will tell you, strategy-wise, that last possession by Hopkins, so kind of, I like Carolina. If the ball's in the Hopkins attack sticks, I feel a little more comfortable defensively than I do when it's up top.
Dunster robbed by the pipe. We're going the other way. No crease call because Guida has it. Guida in the open field. The former football player.
Tell you, Carolina had too many guys in the field there.
And there's the flag. So the officials recognize it. So a free possession for Guida and the Blue Jays. They need to keep it in the box. As Holman and Smith run off. So we'll have an offsides or too many men on the field penalty coming up on North Carolina, but a free possession for Johns Hopkins until they throw it away. So with just under 12 minutes to play, we'll get a look at Johns Hopkins' extra man unit for the first time. There's a good look at our official Matt Palin making the call against Joe Brushy's ball club. And Monday night, ESPNU delivers 2 shows to preview the men's tournament championship. First at 1 Eastern, catch a special edition of The Experts as host Lowell Galindo and our experts preview the championship game of the men's tournament. Then at 5 Eastern, see the College Basketball Live National Championship Special. Butler against Connecticut. That's exactly what Quentin had in his bracket. He told me a couple of weeks ago he loved Kemba Walker and the Huskies.
What would college lacrosse look like if all the good freshmen went on to play Major League Lacrosse? Wouldn't be very pretty.
Brandon Bent couldn't make the catch, so Staines goes the other way. North Carolina down a man, has a man. Bitter again. Does he make it 4? He moves it along, and Galasso can't make the catch. So Bassett and the Blue Jays dodge a bullet in transition there. Leitner with the long pass ahead to Wharton. We go the other way. How far away will he take it? No, he moves it along to Palmer instead. And Flanagan now will. There's a shot. Goodrich can't put it on cage. End-to-end action here at Game 1 of the Big City Classic.
This Johns Hopkins team showing a bit more of a tendency to get up and down the field than some of the years past, and that's what they look good on offense. They look confident. They're making a few passes. You know, Coach Petromalo's got to like to see that his offensive guys aren't afraid to be making plays and taking chances.
The 6th-ranked team in the country with the ball and a 2-goal lead over number 5. Game 1 of the Big City Classic. Damon McEnany along with Quint Kesnick and Matt Ward. This will be followed by number 1 Syracuse against number 3 Duke. In a meeting of the 2 schools to win the last 3 national championships. Here's Marshall Burkhart out of Ohio. Drops it off to the Canadian, Zach Palmer. Palmer not being guarded at all, so he moves it along to Wharton. Looks like a little two-man game going on here instead of 6-on-6. Wharton now being guarded by the short stick.
And if I'm Hopkins, I don't force this dodge right here. I want Wharton in front of the cage more than the ball on his stick because he is such a good shooter.
North Carolina looking to double. Charlie McComas was ready to pounce.
This offense is going to be warned for stalling here in a moment. This is very pedestrian. They're not really attacking in earnest.
As Goodrich backs up. Now Coppersmith to his right. Coppersmith, time, room. What a save by Restivo. Good hustle by Burkhardt, so the Blue Jays will hold on to it.
Closest to the ball when it crosses a line. It looked like Flanagan may have
Save number one,
too
a good
early.
one.
Left side of your screen, Coppersmith coming off the hat-trick performance last week. A lot of high shots. This week he changes the level. Great foot stop by Restivo.
Coppersmith shooting with confidence, not just after that 3-goal effort, but working with a couple of great ones out of Johns Hopkins. Michael Kimmel and Brian Christopher Kimmel, a star in MLL with the Chesapeake Bayhawks. Coach Petramaro was fired up to hear about the extra shooting.
Kimmel giving him some of his cheddar cheese also to put on a stick pregame.
Bayhawks winning it all, the Steinfeld Cup last summer. Now McNeil guarding Bolin behind, so Bolin getting several looks from short stick defenders. And he moves it along to Palmer. Now Hopkins starting to play with some pep in their step. Flanagan all over Palmer. Palmer tries the reach around, tough angle. Now Restivo all by himself behind the net. Gets it back to North Carolina.
Carolina able to play man-to-man defense in this past 10 or so minutes. Handling their matchups.
Johns Hopkins, with all the possession battles right now, has 6 shots in this quarter. North Carolina just 1. So here's McNeil. A walk-on wide receiver with the football team, carries it into the box.
Matchup change for Hopkins now. Durkin covering Bitter.
Here's Dunster being guarded by Castronova. Now Stain sets a pick. Hutchins draws the long stick. As Matt pointed out, kind of surprising that Hutchins gets pulled and Dunster gets the short stick. And now here is Dunster. Does he take a run at Castronova? Junior against senior. Stutter step. Loses his man. Angle. Bullseye!
No question about it. That's a matchup North Carolina needs to go after. Jimmy Dunster has first-team All-American talent. It's always just been a question of him being too precise in his shooting and showing up every single day.
Well, his shooting percentage first 2 years around 17 or 18%. Coming into action today, shooting 10 of 42. This is his second shot. Nice little stutter step right there, which creates the separation from Castronova.
He now has 7 goals in his last 2 in just under a half games.
There you see the difference in the shot percentage. He came to life against Dartmouth with a 4-goal effort. Incredible left-handed blast against Maryland. One of the nicest shots I've seen all year. He's found confidence. Now, it could be as simple as changing a leather or changing a string in his stick.
It's how simple that sounds. It's so true, and it definitely builds on your confidence as well. As a former player who liked to shoot it maybe 20 times a game, you could definitely tell the difference when a stick wasn't thrown the way it needed to be, and sometimes maybe he just made the switch and got lucky with it.
Joe Bresci also sitting down with him saying, don't be so concerned about being the man. Everyone says you're the guy who has to replace Sean Delaney. You're the experienced midfielder. Play your game. Don't worry about carrying our whole offense.
Coach Bresci would like to think words of wisdom would take it from 14% up to 60%, but I think he'd take credit for it now.
So all of North Carolina's 4 goals unassisted so far here in this ball game, but Hopkins now with a chance to pad its lead. Here's Wharton being guarded by Pigari. Working a 2-man game at goal line extended. Shutting off Goodrich. So they'll let Wharton go behind. That's not exactly his calling card. Gary drives him out.
I just don't see this as being great offense. To me, Hopkins' best offense is when guys like Ranigan and Greeley and Guida and Coppersmith are dodging.
It's when they're drawing the slide when Wharton can get open.
And then ball movement from that, yes. But the attack cannot draw a double team at this stage.
Now Burkhart being guarded by Flanagan. And maybe Dave Petramala doesn't like the way this offense is set up right now either. With just 6 minutes and 4 seconds left, he takes the timeout. North Carolina's won 4 championships. Johns Hopkins 9. Champions only at the Big City Classic. 4 top 10 teams on the big stage. Joe Bresci's North Carolina Tar Heels down by 1 to Johns Hopkins in Game 1 of the Big City Classic. And last week, his face-off guy was lit up as we take a look at one of the hot-button issues right now in college lacrosse, physical play. What gets called and what doesn't?
Well, this was a non-call early in the season that led to a memo going out. The rules have been changed. You have to stay off the neck and head. Great hit in Cornell. This is textbook. Drop the shoulder, stay away from the neck and head. But last week, Maryland, in my estimation, this is a perfect hit. That was called a foul, which leads to a lot of questions.
Big hits in the game of college lacrosse used to lead to momentum for the team that's hitting the player. Now it's almost always a 2-minute penalty, unreleasable, that kills momentum.
And that last one was a 2-minute non-releasable, helmet to helmet. Hopkins whiffing on Bitter, no hit there, and the goal. I think everybody's still trying to feel this out. I talked to a bunch of refs today. You brought it up with all the coaches. I think the referees are still trying to really kind of lock in on this rule. What's legal, what's illegal. And the players feel like they can't even hit anyone now, which is kind of unfortunate.
It's a physical game, but you have to protect the players, but you have to let hitting be part of it. At this point, if I'm a coach, I'm saying don't hit a player coming to the crease, because more often than not, I'm going to get a 2-minute unreleasable even if it's legal or not.
That's why I thought it was interesting on the double team. Tim Donovan, what's a player to do if he really makes a big hit right there? Is he going man down for 2 minutes if he takes out Billy Bitter?
Really interesting on our conference calls with these coaches this week how a team like North Carolina, even Notre Dame, and Kevin Corrigan is here in this building. We were talking to him about it. They're practicing hitting with giant football pads because they have to reteach these athletes how to hit without cross-checking or without making contact with their helmets or against the neck or the head.
And what's so tough is most hits in the game of lacrosse, and I think lacrosse more than any other sport, your head is down a lot. And so kids are kind of going up and down. So it's tough as that person coming in the slide to square up the chest because you don't know where it's going to be.
Here's John Greeley, who was drilled last week by Lovejoy as that pass gets picked off by Flanagan. He had to leave that game, did not return. They weren't sure if he was going to be able to play in this one as late as Friday.
Air traffic control by Flanagan.
So now Wood back in the lineup after missing 2 games. It's been quiet in this one. In fact, it's pretty much been Billy Bitter and tack on one from Dunster. Here is Dunster again being guarded by Ranigan. Advantage North Carolina. And he takes it again, but that one Bassett saw it all along. His 3rd save of the ball game. Now Greeley going the other way in the open field. Ranigan moves it along. Nice ball movement, good recovery defense, and a check out of Flanagan. ESPNU's coverage of college baseball continues with SEC Thursday Night Baseball as the 4th-ranked South Carolina Gamecocks take on the Tennessee Volunteers. College baseball on ESPNU Thursday at 7:30 Eastern. Coverage begins with College Baseball Live at 7 Eastern. There's Bolin now being guarded by Flanagan. Coppersmith along with Burkhart. Burkhart with a run. Moves it along to the attack.
And this is better offense, what I like to see from Hopkins. Dodging with the middies from up top. Johns Hopkins teams are at their best when their middies are their best players and their best dodgers. Think Paul Rabel, Kyle Harrison, Greg Pizer. And they have talents like that on this team right now.
Really? Like that?
Not maybe not that level, but they have the talent to be there.
No, that's a more compliment of Rabel and Harrison, don't get me wrong, than the guys they're playing with right now. Those 2 guys, extra world players and standouts at the pro level.
But Ranigan's the athlete who can dodge north-south. Guida, I love his poise and his quickness. And if they can get them playing at a high level, then you get these unbelievably skilled shooters from Hopkins in the right position.
The off-ball guys, exactly right. Off of movement. Bowen can dodge off of ball movement.
Coppersmith, good trail check there for North Carolina. Flanagan into the middle of the field for Chris Hunt. Hunt looking to make a move, gets stood up, and now he'll give it up to Holman.
It's good defense by 28 in Columbia blue. Marshall Burkhart. Because Hunt was intent on going to the goal in that 5-on-5 situation. It's a great opportunity for an offensive midfielder, whether it's a 4-on-4 or a 5-on-5, to test his matchup.
Under 3 minutes to play in the first half. North Carolina looking to tie this one up. Johns Hopkins with just one goal in the last 22 minutes, but thanks to an early 4-0 run, they still have the lead. Dunster being guarded by a short stick again, looking over to the bench, waiting for the play call. This
Dunster
is where we need a shot clock.
Fast. Watch him blow by his man.
Feed inside. Dunster to Holman. We are tied.
And someone needs to get Jimmy Dunster some soap, because that dish was dirty. He does an amazing job coming from the midfield, splitting to his right hand and finding Marcus Holman on the inside, who's just one of their best finishers. You can see here, he's fast, as you mentioned. There's no one who's going to stay with him when he's got that running start. And then just looking with his head up, and the dish finds the man inside, and he just burns it to the top portion of the cage.
Double comes, an excellent double team, but behind it, you've got to fill. And Holman does a good job of stepping upfield away from the second slide, creating a longer slide for 51 Durkin. He catches moving towards Dunster, turn and some high cheese.
It kind of makes me question that matchup of having Jimmy Dunster with the short stick, because Holman's a great off-ball player and a great shooter, where it doesn't affect him as much as a long stick would on Jimmy Dunster.
Good ball movement, Wharton again, and the Blue Jays can't answer there. Wharton with a good hustle. 3 saves for Restivo coming up on the Warrior Lacrosse halftime report. Speaking of good saves, we'll have a Warrior Pro session on goaltending with former Johns Hopkins star Jesse Schwartzman. We'll have a preview of #1 Syracuse against #3 Duke, and we'll have highlights of the first half between the Blue Jays and Tar Heels. Jesse Schwartzman now a star with the Denver Outlaws in Major League Lacrosse. Here's Rannigan. Rannigan looking to get involved, and he does! Right down Route 3. Matt Ward says, look what I told you.
The shift allotment in this game has been interesting for Hopkins. The second midfield's been out there a lot more than the first team guys. Rannigan gets a shift. We've been asking for him all game long. He's got matchup superiority. And unlike the Dunster assist, Carolina doesn't double team. Rannigan runs parallel to the football hash marks, leans in with his wide frame. He's very strong. He's able to take Staines' check there and basically just laugh at it and shoot through it.
It's his second dodging goal of the game, but he's also created a lot of offense. In the first goal, he made the pass. He got the hockey assist in the first one. Those are the types of plays they need from their midfielders to be successful.
So the tie did not last very long. Keenan wins it right back to Smith. So the Blue Jays get it back with 2 minutes to play. And Dave Petramalo wants to take a timeout. Make sure everyone's on the same page with 1:56 left to play. A 1-goal lead and the ball. .156 left to play. You have the ball and the lead. You've had the lead the whole half. What's your pace like? What's your tempo like coming out of this timeout if you're Dave Petramalo?
I'm thinking Dave Petramalo's expecting probably a zone defense coming out of North Carolina here, so I'd probably be putting in a play there, but I'd be patient. I mean, at this point right now, I'd almost hold it, and Johns Hopkins is out of timeout, so, you know, I was thinking maybe they'd hold it till 45 seconds, call another timeout, but at this point, I would just run some sort of off-ball pick, but make sure you get the last possession of the first half.
Let's take a look at some major headlines that happened yesterday in college lacrosse as Maryland knocks off Virginia in Scott Stadium. Ryan Young with a big game, but the bigger story in that one, no Shamel Bratton for the second time this year.
And gut check time for the Maryland Terrapins, who are embarrassed on their home field by North Carolina. Terps very much back in things. Huge question marks surrounding the future of this Virginia team. Is this a team in disarray? How do they react? And what is Shamel Bratton's future? We don't know.
And then you look at Pennsylvania, UPenn. The Ivy League is so deep this year. They're all good. I think they all have a chance to win it. You have Princeton, who's off to a slow start, but they're talented. Cornell's dominant. It's going to be fun to watch who comes out of that division.
Critical win by Loyola over Ohio State. Keeps them in the hunt, keeps them eligible for the ECAC tournament. And then Notre Dame, your alma mater, Eamon, undefeated. Kevin Corrigan is here in the house, and you'll get to see a lot of the Fighting Irish in the month of April on ESPNU.
Next Sunday, they host Georgetown in a Big East battle from Arlada Stadium. Then St. John's Providence, and then what they hope is a showdown. Well, I don't know if they hope too much about Syracuse's record, but they hope they're undefeated going into the Carrier Dome on April 30th for an all Big East showdown here on ESPNU. So we take a look at the upcoming schedule of college lacrosse games on the ESPN networks. Albany breaking through, stopping a losing streak yesterday with a 1-goal win over Harvard, travels to Homewood to take on Johns Hopkins in a Friday night showdown. North Carolina, Virginia will be on ESPN, high noon from Charlottesville. Syracuse and Princeton renew their rivalry that same day on ESPNU.
All critical games. I mean, there's not a game on there that one or both teams have huge significance.
Here's Rannigan again. He makes the pass to a wide open Palmer. Right out of the timeout, the Blue Jays go to work.
I really nailed that explanation of what was going on out of the timeout there. But that's just a nice job by Coach Petramala, recognizing, give it to our best player on the field right now, and probably our best athlete in Rannigan.
Carolina's going to have to go zone ultimately when Rannigan's on the field. I think they can play man-to-man defense against the second midfield, but they've got to zone it. Flanagan just takes a poor angle. He's kind of picked off right there, and it's a race. Carolina slow to double team. Palmer on the backside. Rannigan has been involved in 4 of the goals. He's got 3 points.
On the conference call, Joe Bresci said John Rannigan's playing as well as any midi in the country. We were kind of like, any midi in the country? But maybe he knew what he was talking about. He's come alive today.
How many guys in Division I college lacrosse can dodge a pole consistently and get good shots or create point activities? You know, guys like Justin Turry, who we'll see later, Kevin Crowley, Shamel Bratton. I think Rannigan's on that list.
And that's more of a mindset than anything else. It's saying, a pole's on me, I don't care who's on me. And there's a lot of kids who are athletic enough who don't push the pole because they don't have the confidence to do it. Rannigan showing that he does have that confidence.
The Blue Jays have won all face-offs in this quarter, and Boland converts. 3 goals in less than a minute. Gives the momentum back to the Blue Jays.
Key face-off win. The Wings crash the ball, and next thing you know, Hopkins is back on offense. But this is undisciplined defense. This is Ryan Flanagan thinking that he has to take the ball away from Boland. Just overplaying him, not giving him the respect that he deserves. Over-aggressive on the perimeter. Boland handles his pressure and says, you know what, you want to come at me? I'm going to the goal. I'm not going to dance. I'm going right to the net.
And Boland is so smart at picking his opportunities to dodge. And right there, he realized that Flanagan coming at him out of control and just did a nice job protecting his stick, and Flanagan couldn't keep up with him.
35 seconds ago, this was a tie ball game. 3 Johns Hopkins goals later, the Blue Jays up 8-5. And North Carolina finally gets the ball. No, I'm wrong. The referee pointed the wrong way, so another face-off win by the Blue Jays. Johns Hopkins playing make it, take it right now, thanks to Matt Delente, who has the ball right now and in no rush. Here is Burkhart. Goodrich now looking over to assistant coach Robbie Benson, trying to get the instructions.
This is a definite hold for the last shot. And amazing how 5-5 can quickly go to 8-5. It's just...
And this is the athleticism that we haven't seen from Johns Hopkins last year, as Goodrich gets popped from Dunston.
Better on ground balls, and that loss to Princeton was a horrific ground ball day for Johns Hopkins. Since then, they've been good. They're 50% or better.
They lost that one by 17 against the Tigers, which skews the stats. And going all the way back to the fall and the preseason, that was the mantra for Coach Petramala. Ground balls, ground balls, ground balls.
I was fortunate enough to win 2 national championships. The 2 years we did, we led the country in ground balls. And it's always a broken record where you ask, well, Coach, what's the key? Ground balls.
With 10, Coppersmith hits Restivo right between the 1 and the 9. And now we have a call away from the ball with a flag with 3 seconds, now 1 second left in the half.
Tell you, Restivo, this is a big call here. Restivo didn't see that shot very well. He's not, this is his 4th save of the day.
He felt it right in between the numbers.
All right, so North Carolina is going to get the ball up a man with 1 second left in the half.
So they'll just hold the ball and the penalty will carry over. So when we start the 3rd quarter, the Tar Heels will have the ball and an extra man.
So that'll do it for the first half. Dave Petramala's team started great and ended great. And he heads to the locker room up by 3. Looking to knock off a top 10 ACC opponent for the 2nd week in a row. Coming up on the Warrior halftime report, we'll have a Warrior Pro session on goaltending. Jesse Schwartzman and Quint will take us through that. We'll also have highlights of the first half of this one. Johns Hopkins 8, North Carolina 5. Game 1 of the Big City Classic. It's halftime here at the Konica Minolta Big City Classic as Johns Hopkins leads North Carolina 8-5. Now let's take a look at a Warrior Pro session on goaltending with Quint Kesnick and Jesse Schwartzman.
This halftime report is presented by Warrior. All hail. And now, a Warrior Pro session with Quint Kesnick.
The lacrosse goal is big, the ball is small, and moves at speeds up to 100 miles per hour. The goaltending position in lacrosse, one of the toughest in sports. Requiring cat-like quickness and guts, goalies are a different breed. They stick their bodies in front of projectiles when most mortals would duck for cover. Hand-eye coordination and solid angle play are mandatory traits. When the game is on the line, the best goalies are poised and ready to make a difference. We are joined by Jesse Schwartzman, professional goalie, former 2-time NCAA champion, who has the ability to make the game-changing save, the one from point-blank range. How do you do it?
Well, first I got to focus on the shooter's stick. That's where the ball is. That's where it's going to come out. He's going to try and throw me off by faking and all that, so I got to stay focused and patient in the goal. And the third thing, when the ball leaves the stick, I got to react and just throw my body at the ball.
Say, I get the question a lot. I'm sure you do too. What is the toughest shot for you to save?
Well, it's kind of different. Depends where it's coming from, who's shooting it. But in all, I think the toughest shot to save is the offside hit. I mean, first of all, you're standing in the cage, and to get to the offside hit, you either have to go all the way over top or come all the way underneath. And that's just a far movement and tough to make that save.
For you, what was the toughest transition from the college ranks at Johns Hopkins now to Major League Lacrosse?
Well, Johns Hopkins, everyone was good, but we were playing in a system. Now in the pro league as a goalie, every person's a threat. You have to worry about 6 guys on the field that are all shooting 90 miles an hour plus, and the whole speed of the game. There's a shot clock, so the kind of focus has to be there at all times.
What is the toughest aspect of goaltending in the professional ranks?
Guarding the 2-point range and guarding the fast shot. There's a number of guys that can bring the ball 100 miles an hour plus. So I guess just being courageous in the goal is a big thing.
It takes a lot. It takes technique, smarts, focus, and courage if you want to be a successful goalie in lacrosse.
Welcome back to the Konica Minolta Big City Classic. Game 1, we are set for the second half. Johns Hopkins with a 3-goal lead thanks to a late 3-0 run by the Blue Jays to regain control of this one right before the half. Eamon McEnany along with Quint Kesnick and Matt Ward. And Quint, it's very simple. When you have the ball, you have a chance to score.
Yeah, you look at Hopkins, they won the majority of the faceoffs early and late. They ambushed Carolina out of the locker room and then finished with a flourish. And in between, it was Jimmy Dunster and Billy Bitter dominating.
Matt, you were talking about it coming in. You wanted to see the real Billy Bitter emerge, and obviously he was the North Carolina attack in that first half.
And that 3-goal spurt was unbelievable. And that was vintage Billy Bitter, going back to his sophomore year where he was first-team All-American and really deserved that honor. He's playing at that level today.
Now let's take a look at the highlights. Johns Hopkins came out flying, jumping out to an early lead. There's Rannigan.
Rannigan off a nice feed from Palmer made it 3-0. Wharton zone busting from the wing, 4-0 unassisted, and then it became the Billy Bitter show. 3 straight goals, 4-1, 4-2, and 4-3. Ankle breaking, making good defenders look very human and very silly. Carolina would tie it up at 5 apiece. Ranigan has got 3 points. An assist to Palmer made it 7-5. And then Ryan Flanagan, Defender of the Year, overplaying Boland, takes it to the rack, 8-5.
So, Matt, as we take a look at the stats, what jumps out to you?
Obviously, the second quarter faceoffs at 7-0. And the shots are even, but I think Hopkins has had more real chances on Cage, and the shots they are taking are very great shots and great scoring opportunities, while North Carolina, I think, is taking some low-angle, high-risk type shots. Matt
Delente has now taken the 5th most faceoffs in Johns Hopkins history, but he won't get to take one to start the third quarter because North Carolina will have the ball in an extra man opportunity down by 3. And you want to keep your eye on number 1, Marcus Holman. He is their main threat on the extra man. Quentin, you've had all half to get your man up unit, man down unit ready. How important is this opportunity for North Carolina right now?
For Carolina, it's big. You know, you get some flow. Defensively, you can generate momentum with a stop, obviously, but you don't want to put too much emotional energy into any one possession.
Here is Holman. Now Bitter behind. Velasco's been quiet. Holman, time, room, cranks it up. Dunster thought that one went in.
Well,
Bassett gets the save, his 4th. I'm not sure. Even Bassett thought that one got by him.
What typically happens there is the ball goes past the goalie stick, hits the post, then hits the goalie stick, and can trickle in or out. The goal moved. I think the ball hit the post initially.
So now Hopkins with 13 seconds to run off, gives it up. Key ground ball here. Bitter gets popped by Delente, still loose. Bitter comes up with it, popped again by Delente. Donovan falls down and draws the flag. I don't know about that one. He was falling down on his own, but nobody asked me, so Johns Hopkins will have an opportunity on the extra man.
Tell you, Donovan is a big boy. Yesterday at practice down there, I would not want him hammering my back with cross checks while I was carrying the ball to the goal. He is a moose. Senior, 6'3", 220. Played high school at Loyola High School. That's the same school that Joe Bresci went to when he was a youngster.
So the penalty's on Flanagan. It's interesting on some of the conference calls this week, talking about Tim Donovan, Dave Petromal saying he's sort of the big brother of our defense, especially with Castronova, the freshman, but the defense as a whole, kind of the big brother of that unit.
They've improved tremendously in both the short stick midfield defense and the pole position, in my estimation. Bringing a guy like Ben Smith, and Ori Michael is a better player this year than he was a year ago.
So we have everything to go except the ball, but now we get it in and we're ready to go. Johns Hopkins 0-for-1 opportunity in the first half on the extra man. 92, Brandon Ben is the extra man specialist for the Blue Jays. He gets it from his fellow Canadian Zach Palmer and moves it along. Here's Goodrich. Palmer looking to feed inside. Instead, it's a skip to Greeley, just too high. He was anxious to let that one rip.
Palmer's done a nice job behind the cage all game, whether it's 6-on-6 or man up, finding that skip lane and really getting the shooters the ball in the appropriate positions. Very impressive.
Boland to Wharton as the penalty releases, and there's a big hit, and that gets called. Hunt leveled Wharton, and as Flanagan comes out of the back box, Hunt goes in it. So nothing but extra man lacrosse right now in the second half.
Going to be a cross-check call. You mentioned Zach Palmer, 12 assists this season. Very much improved as a passer and dangerous behind the goal. Shot taken, defenseless shooter. That angle says, I didn't see the cross-check. He must have continued to push at the head and neck area of Kyle Wharton.
And I think it may have been that it was a second late. It was after the release of the shot, so it may have called a slash, but it was probably a late hit more than anything else.
Here's Ben. Restivo ready for that quick release. He has 5.
That's a call similar to football when a quarterback releases the ball or the ball goes over a receiver's head when they're considered in a vulnerable or defenseless position.
Ryan Creighton gets it in the box, so North Carolina will try to run off 20 seconds, down a man. Hopkins at some point might want to come out and double the ball or just sit back.
They did that last week against Colin Briggs of Virginia, and he
Torched him.
Found the back of the net, so
they're
question is
content to sit back.
Yeah, Billy Bitter, the 3 goals in the quarter. And since then, he hasn't even pressed to the goal. How come?
I think more the fact that they really haven't had the ball that often since that moment.
Holman on the substitution puts on the brakes. We haven't heard from Nicky Galasso at all. 7 points a week ago, and he was the leader in that game. And now he hasn't forced the issue in this one. 2 goals, 5 assists, the ACC Offensive Player of the Week.
He's not going to make his own shot. He's the type of player who thrives in transition.
Holman, the natural attackman, trying to take advantage of the short stick, instead moves along to Galasso. Now he has Leitner hung up. Bassett one side, Leitner the other. The feed to Wood, can't make the catch.
Tell you, Wood was wide open.
Yeah, the thing with Nicky Galasso, he's more of a physical dodger. I think the Riley matchup, because he's so big, kind of takes away his strength as a dodger. So him today, I'd look for him to capitalize on transition opportunities and really off ball.
Bitter's got a good matchup.
Ben Smith on him. Now Dunster. Still looking for our first goal of the second half. Dunster giving himself some space to take a run at the freshman. To the right, sees the slide, moves it along. Extra pass, good recovery, closeout defense. Hopkins wanted a ward on Holman.
I thought he did a nice job of getting that arm free without extending it and taking the ward. So a very composed play by Marcus Holman.
Now Galasso being guarded by a short stick midfielder. Does he take advantage? The pass, the shot, not on Cage. Wood returning to the lineup after missing 2 games. Just a bit off on that shot. And ESPNU's coverage of college lacrosse continues Saturday afternoon as the #1 Syracuse Orange take on the Princeton Tigers. Old Spice College Lacrosse on ESPNU Saturday at 4 Eastern. Bitter looking to create, gets the shot off. Now Galasso will go and get it.
He's really doing a nice job of stringing dodges together, more so than I've seen this year. And he just roll dodge to a split dodge. The combination is there.
Must be watching Rob Pinnell.
Riley with the clean takeaway, but now Galasso comes up with a ground ball, the quick release. And Bassett there for the backup. No one from North Carolina ready for the quick shot, so Johns Hopkins gets it back. We are close to 5 minutes without a goal here in the third quarter.
Left side of your screen, shots taken. You see Matt Palin, the goalie, in the green on the right, a former goalie himself. At age 43, still beating Bassett to the end line. Matty Palin, one of the more talented out-of-the-cage goalies since I've been watching lacrosse. He wore those orange football pants up in the dome.
Part of those great dynasty teams with the Gates, late 80s.
Played with a lot of bounce. He played with some serious bounce and some presence and some attitude.
Now one of the better officials in the college game. Brannigan. Staines getting physical now. A couple of big boys throwing their weight around. Flanagan now on Boland, so they're taking the short stick off 3-2. Now Greeley looking to get involved. Here's Guida. Coming off a 2-goal performance a week ago. Moves it along.
Guida's drawn that quick double.
Brannigan to Greeley. Now Boland being guarded by the short stick Hunt. Boland in no rush on the invert here. A couple of Maryland products going head to head, and now there's the stall warning on Boland and the Blue Jays.
Carolina shifting to their 42 defense. 2 shorties are kind of in shut-off mode with a 4-man zone behind it.
So down by 3 and they have a stall warning. Would you be eager to come out and jump the ball and force the issue on defense?
I would just continue playing
just got to play at this stage, third quarter.
Bowen in no rush.
And especially when they have the matchup with Bowen on the short stick. If you can start rushing out, you're going to open up all kinds of passing lanes for him to find open players.
Here's Wharton now. The skip gets knocked down. Flanagan comes up with a ground ball. Rannigan right behind him and moves it along to Staines. Staines got a goal a week ago. Bitter doesn't like the numbers. Flag down. Free possession for the Tar Heels.
Great pass by Ryan Flanagan, one-handed, wraps it around his defender to Staines in transition. Crowd up on their feet. If I'm Carolina, I force that, especially once that flag goes down. Now, this is a free opportunity.
And that's when you should play your most aggressive lacrosse, because you know it's make it, take it, or you're going to get the ball back.
Dunster with a little shake and bake on Rannigan. Feed up top. Holman with time and room. Bassett with a clean snare. He now has 5 saves. But Dave Petramala unhappy now about being a man down.
.30 seconds.
So penalties on Rannigan. 30-second extra man opportunity for the Tar Heels.
Staines carries in. Rannigan doesn't show restraint.
Here's Holman. Thomas Wood back out there on the extra man. He has the ball, moves it along to Galasso. Here's Galasso. Holman, top shelf. It's a 2-goal ball game. He has 2. He is their guy on the extra man.
Marcus Holman, his 19th goal of the season in only 10 games. He's as efficient as a shooter in the game of college lacrosse. He just gets to the right spot, and he's just over the top, and he's very accurate with shooting. He loves this low-angle shot in the man-up where it's 2 quick passes, steps in, and fires to that far post. No one better at that shot in the game right now.
That is his spot. He and Chris Bocklett of Virginia make a living off of that right-handed, the 1.5 position, basically. If the goal were 6 o'clock, it would be in the 3 o'clock range, I guess. But he keeps it simple. Straight overhand, as you said, shoots that far post.
He now has 8 of North Carolina's 14 extra man goals, and they finally win a face-off. Creighton, nobody stopping him. But he shoots over the crossbar.
Matt, that was very much your spot. What Holman does well, it seems like his feet are ready to go, his hands are in position to catch half a cradle and a rip.
He's always 2 plays ahead of where the ball's at. He knows and he visualizes what's going to happen, and he gets himself to that right position. And that's what makes great shooters, is knowing how offense works and putting yourself into the right position to capitalize.
So the Tar Heels now send out their second midfield line. Prevost, Pat Foster, and Matt Davey. Foster with a big day last week as an attackman, a hat trick in his first career start. Now with Wood back on the field, he bumps back to midfield. This is a midfield group for Coach Bresci that has been decimated by offseason and preseason injuries. Players such as Cam Wood and Greg McBride, who they were counting on to be major factors, out for the season with injuries. So now Davey on the invert.
Carolina's lost 8 midfielders in the last year. 2 to graduation, Sean Delaney, Crider DiPietro. 2 left school. Chris Lane is now at Loyola, and Ian Bradish is at Hofstra. And then you had 2 guys retire because of head injuries. Tyler Morton, a really good defensive midfielder. And Sean Burke.
And Milton Lyles, a very athletic, long stick midfielder, out for the season as well. Bitter loses it to Durkin. Riley there with a clean ground ball. The freshman going the other way. Blows by Galasso. And he drops it off. So a good defensive stand by Riley, Durkin, and the Blue Jays. Gives it back to the offense. Now here's Burkhart. Jack Riley there with the ground ball and the pickup. You mentioned the 2 guys he's guarded coming into this game, JoJo Marasco and Bratton, and the coach always says he has a desire to be great and to learn.
And today, I think that first quarter will be a humbling and a learning experience for him. They've switched the matchup now with Dirk in 51 covering Bitter. Bitter's a unique animal. He's just a totally different deal in terms of his quickness and his dodging patterns.
And you won't think it, but the more experience you have really helps you guard those types of players better because you understand angles more so in your second year and third year than you would, 8 games into your freshman season.
So after ending the second quarter on a 3-0 burst, the offense is stalled for the Blue Jays here in the third quarter. Palmer getting a pick, so they switch. Flanagan comes out to stop the ball. There's a stall warning for the Blue Jays. Johns Hopkins must keep it in the box again. Boland, Flanagan all over him.
East-west dodging behind the goal, no cuts in front. A lot of guys just standing around.
So now Goodrich on the invert being guarded by Burns. Burns, a New Jersey resident, Medford Lakes, South Jersey. There it is, yet to score here in the second half. And Goodrich loses it. McComas comes out on him for the ground ball. Burns, that's a dangerous save. Pagari bails him out with the check. So the drought continues for Hopkins.
It was a dangerous save, but he made it the great initial check. McComas came to his rescue. Carolina flooded that ground ball.
Flanagan to Staines into the middle of the field. Long stick to long stick. Doesn't work out.
It rarely does.
Hey. Come on. Long sticks can handle the ball. Staines scored last week.
Know your role, Eamon. Know your role. You give the ball to Matt and run through that substitution box. Get back to your side of the field.
And there are certain long sticks in the country who can handle the ball. But right here, Mark Staines and just needs to understand the game a little bit more and not make that pass.
This is one of those games, an ACC game, a game involving a Syracuse or Hopkins or Notre Dame. Bigger, faster, stronger athletes. Ground ball play, you're going to get the ball in your stick momentarily. Expect the check. You've got to be strong. That's where you show true toughness.
There's a good poke check there from Flanagan. Bitter comes up with the ground ball. Coach Petramala and Billy Dewan looking for a call as Billy Bitter went over midfield. And then Flanagan looking for his high school teammate Galasso, but he throws it away. Johns Hopkins with a 2-goal lead over North Carolina in Game 1 of the Big City Classic. Eamon McEnany along with Matt Ward and Quint Kesnick. Joe Bresci knows his team just blew an opportunity to pull within one. The unforced error. This is Game 1. Game 2, number 1 against number 3, Syracuse against Duke. We have a whistle on the field. We're going to reset.
Game's getting a little bit sloppy here in the third quarter. A lot of back and forth ball on the ground, a lot of scrums. Obviously coaches don't like to see that, but the team that shows the more heart and has the better athletes is usually going to win those battles.
Rannigan to Greeley. Over to Donovan on the clear.
It's a Carolina ride that kind of waits for you to cross midfield line, then puts the pressure on with the pole here.
Kieran McDonald, the sophomore out of Rye, New York, all over Donovan. Gets it in the box and drops it off to Guida. Guida's been quiet coming off the 2-goal performance against Virginia. Grew up in Chatham, New Jersey, about 20 minutes away. Here comes Rannigan, taking a run at McDonald. Saw Creighton coming on the double. Now he's being guarded by Creighton. Rannigan lowering the shoulder, drawing the double team, so he moves it along to Greeley. Greeley scored on that move a week ago, loses it here. Flanagan with the takeaway in the ground ball. Now McComas. Had Creighton in the middle of the field, decided not to force it, and retreats. 30 seconds once you pick it up to put it in the box. Rule change this year. Stevo has Dunster coming out of the box, and he finds him. So now North Carolina with a chance to pull within one. Wood will put on the brakes and allow some substitutions. Here's Holman coming through the box. Sees Smith waiting for him. and he slows up. Under a minute to play in the third quarter. 1 goal so far in this quarter. Guida's out there on defense. Should be interesting to see if his fellow freshman Hutchins takes a run at him. But this is Dunster being guarded by Ranigan. If things don't change, this would be Johns Hopkins' 4th scoreless quarter this season. Dunster's going on the invert, being guarded by Ranigan. Good defense by Ranigan. That looked pretty simple.
He is a player.
Dunster didn't give himself any space, but they quickly turn it over. Unsettled opportunity here if North Carolina can come up with it. Dunster, again, another unforced error with 12 seconds left. He had Galasso wide open. Joe Bresci can't believe it.
Ranigan's just all over the place. He was actually the one on Jimmy Dunster's gloves right there to force that pass out of bounds and really take an opportunity or steal an opportunity from North Carolina in transition.
Both these teams, are they playing tired a bit? It seems like it's a little sloppier than we're accustomed to. The mistakes, the pep, fatigue.
It's definitely been a more lethargic second half, and it's probably because of the tiredness factor.
1 goal equals lethargic. That's the 15 minutes we had. Joe Bresci's club pulled within 2, but that's it. The 4th quarter between number 5 and number 6 when we return to New Jersey. So after an exciting first half, the third quarter a little sloppy, and guys, that's kind of what you would expect from 2 young teams going at it.
Seems like it's good play, bad play. Guy makes a great dodge, but then turns it over. Defensive check. No one can string together 3 or 4 successful plays.
That's our game track brought to you by Warrior Lacrosse. As we are set to start the 4th quarter. Keenan with a better third quarter at the face-off X against Delente. Delente continuing to move up the all-time ranks, and he wins this one forward to himself. Good job by Creighton to get back.
Both Delente and Keenan prefer the pinch and pop, which is a quick move where they try to push the ball out in front, and similar styles don't mix. And these have been quick face-offs most of the time.
And I think those are the type of face-off guys who are going to become more prevalent in the game of college lacrosse with the new rules. It's going to be the people who can get the clamping out rather than the grinders, because they're really starting to crack down on that as an officiating group.
Really, to Ranigan, full head of steam, hands free, top shelf again. Have a day, 3-1. He's got 3.
Wing dodge by Greeley. Defense has to double team. And then a nice little wrinkle there where Ranigan runs to that ball side, and the second slide is vacated. So now all of a sudden Carolina's defense is left in a vulnerable position where they probably have to switch to a near man, and 45 McComas has got to come up from that low position.
Definitely it was a written up play beforehand. That would have been practiced. Usually you don't see running towards the dodger. You want to go the opposite direction.
Exactly.
So caught the defense off guard. That's a nice job by Greeley, but a really good job by Ranigan by going north-south towards the cage.
So Frankie Kelly goes out there, only taking 9 face-offs all year. He takes this one, and let's see the result. North Carolina came out of the box early, so Johns Hopkins will have possession again. So R.G. Keenan, not a good day a week ago against Maryland, and now they're going with Frankie Kelly.
Life's tough for a freshman. When you're facing 22, 21, 23-year-old athletes who have been battle-tested, who know all the tricks of the trade, who are going to physically and emotionally try to pound you into submission every Saturday.
Here's Greeley.
A Hopkins lead means that Carolina, if they do go zone, would be counterproductive to ultimately winning this ball game, because the guys in Columbia blue would just hold the ball.
Ranigan again. Have we seen this before? Ooh, Restivo gets it there. Wharton can't let the quick stick go. Good ground ball play by Hunt.
Eamon, you called it. Same exact play, same result. What a good look that was.
McDonald on the clear, gets jumped, but he gets rid of it to Bitter. Here's Bitter turning on the Jets. Breaking ankles back to his right. Now he moves it along.
He really can stop on a dime, though. That's so impressive. Most people have to turn their backs when they want to change direction, especially attackmen. He can do it all in front of his face, which allows him to get in and out of his breaks faster than most attackmen.
Here's Golasso. Now Dunster. Hutchins being guarded by Guida. How do they get Golasso involved? Does he get himself involved?
He's going to be the off-ball guy. It's got to start with Dunster or Bitter, drawing the double team and then some ball movement, and that's where Holman would get involved, or a guy like Golasso.
Golasso takes a run at Riley. Big on big. Fakes the pass. Riley with the takeaway. Dunster, though, there.
We mentioned Nicky Golasso, how talented he is. I think he's the best. He's the smartest freshman in terms of getting the ball and understanding situations. We're going to see a player, Jordan Wolf from Duke, later in the game, who will run by you, who is that quick. They both have their strengths, and it's fun to watch them play and develop here in the freshman year.
Hutchins had time and room, but he forgot the ball, so Guida goes the other way. Guida moves it along. The quick pass, Palmer doesn't like it. He wasn't above goal line extended. He had no angle.
How does that happen? On a stone-cold 4-on-3 break, my low righty attackman's behind the goal?
Yeah, usually in those situations, you want to have that low right guy be someone who can step up the field and take that shot. And like you said, North Carolina did a nice job of sloughing in, but Hopkins in poor formation to execute.
Quint, I know he's a sophomore playing in his 9th game of his sophomore year, but he is a Canadian. Is he still getting used to the field game as he takes a run at Pigari? A different role, going back inside. Restivo stops that one. That might be his best save of the ball game.
A 4-on-3 is one of your best opportunities you will ever get, and you've got to be aggressive in those situations. Is that a conservative mindset? Is he not comfortable on that right-handed wing?
That's a tough thing for a team that has two left-handed players on the attack side to set up into an appropriate
lefty break.
Usually you want two righties on a fast break to take best advantage of it. There, Hopkins has two lefties who are pretty predominantly one-handed, so it makes a tough situation in fast break.
So now Pat Foster's out there for Thomas Wood. Dunster loses his man, takes a high shot, not on Cage. So North Carolina making a switch at attack. The freshman 41 coming off a hat trick against Maryland, in there for number 2, Thomas Wood. He's now has the ball, being guarded by Chris Lightman. Here's Hutchins, being guarded by Goodrich. Draws the slide. Dunster coming around, gets the lefty shot free. Too high.
Tell you, he can rip it. Dunster on the run, left-handed, dangerous.
Speaking of dangerous, Billy Bitter.
Just back off of him. You don't want to get running away from the goal.
Riley was ready for him there on that roll, ready to pounce and double. Jack Riley's playing a heck of a game right now for the Blue Jays. And Foster with the push. Jack Riley had that slide and double team dialed up.
I tell you, Bitter, as you said, Matt, his ability to cut, it's almost like he's doing slalom back there, and very difficult. I give Durkin credit that time for staying with him. It's usually easier, though, I think, to just back off of Billy Bitter and not get involved in his cuts.
Don't engage him behind the cage. And I think sometimes Billy Bitter gets himself in trouble when he tries to do too many cuts, though. He gets an advantage every single time. Utilize that.
The step is there.
Corner.
The step is there, you're saying, and then try to turn the corner.
Sometimes he's coming right back to where the defenseman's coming from, opposed to not taking advantage of the step and the separation he created.
So now Greeley looks up, checks the time and score. Hopkins 9, Carolina 6, 9:20 to play.
Hopkins will be conservative. They'll take their time. They'll stay within the framework of their offense, though.
Here's Rannigan. Drawing the pole of Mark Staines. Guida backs up. Looking to give himself some space. To the left. No slide coming, he loses it. Ball still loose. McComas can't come up with it, now he does. Under 9 minutes to play. McComas sends it along to Pigari. Each team has scored 1 goal here in the second half. You see our officials wearing lime green jerseys. That's to raise awareness for the Headstrong Foundation. Foundation created by the Kalalori family to raise money and awareness for cancer patients and their families. So a timeout here on the field. North Carolina down by 3 with under 8.5 to play in game 1 of the Big City Classic. Who will be around for the Jets and the Giants on draft night?
How about the Ravens?
Well, if we were in Baltimore, I'd talk Ravens.
What about the Redskins?
Who? Are they still in the NFL?
Just watch out, sleeping giant.
Yeah, they're sleeping all right. All right, back to lacrosse. Speaking of sleeping, North Carolina, 1 goal in the last 34 minutes and change. Dunster, Tom Wood back in the lineup, and he scores. That's why they call it execution. Right out of the timeout, Dunster to Wood. It's a 2-goal ball game.
I almost thought out of that timeout that Hopkins might come out and show zone defense. Defensively, I'm expecting a play from you, Matt, when you come out offensively off of a timeout.
And for someone who knows lacrosse, that was a mumbo-type play, where essentially what that means is your outside guys service, pick guys come in, pick the true crease guys, they step out. Most teams expect that and know how to defend that, and Johns Hopkins just got caught sleeping.
I was saying, why the timeout? 8.5 to go here. Coach Bresci had 2, so he uses 1, and it really pays off. He gives his team a freshener, a breather, and they score off the timeout. So a very good call by Coach Bresci.
A good call at the faceoff as Frankie Kelly draws a whistle on Delente. So a change of pace. Delente gets a little frustrated, and the Tar Heels get the ball back. It is amazing every week, every game, how important the ebb and flow of the faceoffs and subsequent ground balls are. Can the Tar Heels convert and make this a 1-goal ball game again? Hutchins now being guarded by Delente. Kelly comes off, Dunster comes on. Castronova goes out to get him. Dunster with a little stutter step, finds Hutchins. Wood, good closeout defense by Durkin, and then Riley knocks that pass down. Golasso with the ground ball, unsettled now. Golasso looking to create. Dunster can't make the catch. Here's Holman, the natural attackman, going behind. Being guarded by Castronova. 7 minutes left in game 1 of the Big City Classic. Holman back to his right. Golasso looking inside, finds Wood. Bassett with the save on the quick stick.
Nice cut by Wood, curling around a screen inside. Golasso put it right where it had to be. And then Pierce Bassett, a beautiful save from about 6 yards.
He makes a 6 save.
He makes every save he should, and then some. And that's why I think Johns Hopkins fans, it's probably the first time in 3-4 years that they've had that steady force in the cage.
His ability to stay back and balanced and wait, boom, react. It's really good. His body he's not lunging at the ball. He's not guessing.
As his coach says, it's not a roller coaster. Rannigan taking the roller coaster down, but Restivo with the save. So now numbers for Carolina. 4-on-3. Inside Bitter. It's a 1-goal ball game. For the 2nd straight year, number 4 has 4 against Johns Hopkins.
And this all starts with a defensive Mark Staines forcing Rannigan to the right hand. Restivo makes the simple save, finds Hart in the open field. And this is an amazing pass in my opinion. A deep midi with the vision to find a Billy Bitter cutting back door and throwing the accurate pass. You don't see that in most defensive midfielders.
It goes to show that when you push things in transition, good things happen. And Hopkins looked like they got caught on a little bit of a sub there. Nice outlet pass. But an aggressive pass by Chris Hunt, the senior.
So both coaches thought Billy Bitter was ready for a big game, and he responds with his first 4-goal game since last year's Johns Hopkins North Carolina contest That one was played at Homewood Field. North Carolina won that one for its 4th straight win over Johns Hopkins. Blue Jays snapped a losing streak a week ago to Virginia, now precariously holding on to a 1-goal lead against the Tar Heels.
And it looks like Johns Hopkins is setting up in that kind of same set with Greeley on the wing, Ranning it up top. And they're going to try, I imagine they're going to have to flush him out pretty quickly, and North Carolina is doing a nice job of that.
Carolina can go zone now, this being a 1-goal game, if they choose. Looks like a...
Look how early McComas is ready to pounce and slide on Greeley, as Michael Burns goes out on the sophomore. So now Rannigan being guarded by number 31, Jordan Smith, North Carolina product. The switch on the ball. McComas now guarding Palmer. When does Hopkins get a stall warning? Are they attacking the goal? Are they looking to create on offense?
I got to imagine the next time they step in the box, they're going to get a stall call at some point.
Guida always looking to attack, it seems. Moves it along. Greeley standing still. There it is. There's the stall warning as Greeley gets a step. Restivo with the save. Burns takes it out of the air. Flanagan now.
And they're making Restivo's life a lot easier in this close of the game because they're taking low-angle shots where he's able to pounce and play his pipe pretty well.
Flanagan gives it up to Dunster. Restivo 1 away from his 3rd straight double-digit save game and his 3rd straight start for the Tar Heels. He started his collegiate career at Penn State behind Drew Adams, now a star in the MLL with the Long Island Lizards. Decided to transfer and got the starting job against Dartmouth a couple of games ago. Under 4 minutes to play in game 1 of the Big City Classic. North Carolina with the ball, trailing by 1. Dunster, Wood, Holman, still alive. Bitter there behind with the ball. Is that a shot or a pass?
A hit to the head, I think, was blatantly missed by the refs right there. It looked like a head came right into Marcus Holman's head. That was great offense by North Carolina, drawing and dumping.
It was interesting because Hopkins chased North Carolina off the field. They played 5-on-5. And, Matt, I saw the same thing. I saw a poke check that came underneath the chin or neck area.
Let's take a look as we go to break. Joe Bresci's club with a timeout. The ball down by 1. Absolutely. That was all head. We're still 6-on-6 when we return. Back here in the New York City metropolitan area, a good one in game 1 of the Big City Classic. Johns Hopkins with a 1-goal lead against North Carolina, but Dave Petramala's club is going back on defense. And Matt, if you were Joe Bresci in that North Carolina huddle, what would you be drawing up on the grease board?
I think I go to Billy Bitter and I go to Jimmy Dunster and look who's the freshest. And to be honest, I think I go with Billy Bitter. Put the ball on your best Dodgers stick. Let him create slides and move the ball if they come out in a man.
I believe they're coming out in a zone right now, and so you got to mark up 2 plays on the sideline. Yes, this is their zone with 25, Tim Donovan on the inside.
North Carolina executed to perfection out of its last timeout. Here's Dunster. Thought about it. Bitter. Step down opportunity for Galasso. Cross cage feed instead. Wood wasn't above the goal line. Dunster lets it fly. 3:05 left to play.
This is when the film study is going to work to your favor as a defender. No tendencies. Dunster will let it go left-handed. Galasso's a feed-first guy. Holman's going to try to cause havoc inside.
Galasso now moves inside with Holman. So a freshman and sophomore on the crease. Dunster from up top. Quick slide. Now Galasso. Cross cage feed. Catch made. We are tied. Duncan Hutchins.
And I love the makeup of this play. They started with Galasso inside, and they wanted to get him, probably because he's their best feeder, into a position where he can run up the field, survey and find that skip pass, and he does it to perfection right here. Look at him find Hutchins on the backside, just buries it near side.
An amazing feed through sticks like the traffic on the BQE. Somehow, Hutchins catches and then slivers that ball past Pierce Bassett. There wasn't much to shoot at, but Galasso has vision. He looks through the defense, and he loves to target the backside.
Galasso rated as the #1 freshman in the class of 2010 by Inside Lacrosse. After a ridiculous career at West Islip, 4 state championships, 500 points. He ended his career with a 7-point performance against Fairport. Now a critical ground ball. Delente gets popped, but Guida's there for Hopkins. Guida has a step. Creighton there to meet him. So Johns Hopkins has a timeout. Still plenty of time left, though, in a 9-9 ball game.
Yeah, that's just a very aware play by Guida with the pressure on him, but the awareness to realize that the possession is key here. You don't see that from a lot of freshmen. A lot of times they kind of get taken up in the moment and make stupid plays, if you will.
Frankie Kelly out there on defense, 14 for North Carolina. He has not seen a lot of time this year as a freshman. He's guarding Coppersmith as he floats back in. So now Coppersmith has it.
You have to slide here early if you're North Carolina.
He dusts them, and they have the lead again, just like that.
That's just a lack of recognition on North Carolina's defense that Kelly wasn't going to win that matchup. There was no chance he was staying with number 16, Lee Coppersmith, on that one.
Eamon, you saw it. We saw it. Hopkins obviously saw it. But Carolina's defense here, you got to be in a support mode. Go now. Slide now. Oh, no. Trouble. Flanagan's late. Not sure who had the backup responsibility, but that's a case where, as a defensive leader down below, whether you're Charlie McComas or Ryan Flanagan or Steven Restivo, you got to get your guy on his horse, and he's got to fly upfield to flush that ball out of the stick of Coppersmith.
So the extra shooting with the alumni pays off for Coppersmith. Now Kelly has to go back there and win a critical face-off for his team to get the ball back to try to tie this up. But Delente, like a senior, wins it easily. So now, can Johns Hopkins run out a minute 43 and snap its second straight losing streak to an ACC opponent? When does Carolina jump the ball? How about right away? But Dave Petramala got the timeout.
He's as good as any coach, I think, in the business, utilizing that timeout at the end of games.
One thing he does better than most coaches is he makes sure he is right next to the referee. He doesn't take chances at yelling 10, 15, or 20 yards. I mean, he was standing as close as we are, Matt. And as soon as he felt the possession was in jeopardy, boom, T.O.
Monday night, ESPNU delivers 2 shows to preview the Men's Tournament Championship. First at 1 Eastern, catch a special edition of The Experts as host Lowell Galindo and our experts preview the championship game of the men's tournament. Then at 5 Eastern, see the College Basketball Live National Championship Special. That's all Monday on ESPNU. So 89 seconds left in regulation here. We take a look at the Johns Hopkins huddle. They have the ball. Pressure on North Carolina. How much pressure can you put on the ball this early?
I think you want to go with heavy pressure because the ball is going to be inbounded right by the end line in the corner outside the box. And this is a good strategic area to double team and pull the goalie right away.
I imagine they'll probably put Ryan Flanagan on the ball because he probably is their best takeaway guy. He takes risks, and they're going to probably give him 10 to 15 seconds to try to do it himself. And at that point, they're going to be forced to double, like you said, and bring that extra pressure.
With this ball positioning in the corner, the question for Hopkins is, can you run to safety here? Do you give the ball to a Ranigan or a Coppersmith with speed, or do you try to make an inbounds pass and use a pick away from the ball to free up a ball carrier?
Point, educate our viewers on the rules now about keeping it in the box with a lead and a 1:29 left in the game.
Well, once it gets in the box, it's got to stay in. But at this stage, Hopkins does not have to take the ball in the box, so they theoretically could run the ball up the sideline towards the midfield line.
I always think back to last year's game that we covered between Georgetown and UMass, that Georgetown had the lead in the ball and turned it over quickly. How tough it is to run out clock when you're being doubled and not go for that shot.
Well, if Boland handles this, that's a sign that he's going to try to inbound the ball. He will try to throw the ball to the player, probably covered by the goalie or someone coming off a pick.
Restivo's guarding Palmer off the ball. Flanagan and McComas on the ball. So the net is wide open. 1:29 left. Carolina ready to pounce on Chris Boland. Boland looking for Palmer. Palmer can't make the catch, but good pass leading him. He ran it down. Restivo's still out of the net. Palmer doesn't look to shoot. Now he's doubled. Now he's in trouble. He throws it up for grabs. And Restivo comes out and gets it. So Carolina gets the advantage and the ball back. Now we're going the other way. Carolina still has a timeout. They don't have their offensive personnel out there. No call on Ranigan. As Quint told us last week, it really isn't whether you hit anything or the motion. But with 55 seconds left, no flag, 6-on-6, North Carolina timeout.
Exceptional defense by Carolina. Forced Hopkins into a corner, generated the ball. And Coach Brescia's in a good spot here. Hopkins just, they didn't have their blinding fast players handling the ball there. Restivo's a good athlete out of the net.
And I don't know if I almost want to throw the ball into the box at that moment yet. I'd almost give the ball to Ranigan and try to get him topside to sweep so he can waste some more time. And like you said, they put it to Palmer, who's not their best athlete, who then got himself into a position where he was cornered again in the side of the box.
The initial pass from Boland to Palmer was excellent. But at this stage right now, Palmer kind of corners himself here. Someone's got to help him out.
That's where the box rules play a huge
That's
effect.
where he can't go out of that line. And maybe his first move should have been towards the middle of the field because the shot was potentially there also.
He did not look at the shot at all. He gave it maybe a half look.
As we move forward here, Hopkins, zone or man? Carolina. Matt, you're drawing up 2 plays.
Absolutely, and I think if it's man, I go with Billy Bitter and let him have a run at it and cause all kinds of chaos. If it's a zone, I look to get the ball to Nicky Golasso in a position where he can find an open teammate. He's just so smart and has great vision and throws pinpoint accurate passes.
Both teams now out of timeouts. With 54 seconds left to play, it'll start in the stick of the man who has 4 goals, Billy Bitter. Golasso's 34. Your shooter is Dunster, 20. And Holman knows how to finish as well, number 1.
Looks like a man-to-man defense right now. That could change.
So here's Hutchins. Smith comes way out on Dunster with 45 seconds left. Dunster. Good defense by Smith. Now Golasso with 35. Durkin on him. Now they get to switch. Bitter alone. Bitter looking to create with 28. The catch not made. Ground ball with 24. Dunster. Bassett saw it all along. Maybe too far out, maybe rushed. His 7th save might have iced it.
Yeah, but he put it on the goal, and Bassett had to hang in there and make that stop. That is tough. Ice in his veins.
You know, that ended up being a quality shot at the end of the game. You make the goal and make a save, and Jimmy Dunster did a nice job at Bassett, as good as it gets in the country. Bassett
made a save last week to preserve a win over number 2. He does it today against number 5, and for the 2nd straight week, Johns Hopkins snaps a losing streak to an ACC opponent. They win this one 10-9.
Last possession, Hopkins staying with the man. Man-to-man defense, Dunster and Donovan. Not a great shot, but still, it's on the goal, it's offside stick high, it's moving. Many times we've seen goalies choke in that scenario and might not make that stop, so you have to give Bassett a lot of credit for hanging in there.
It's almost like an eagle putt in the Masters. You got to get it to the hole to have a chance for it to go in, and Dunster did a nice job with that.
Our player of the game brought to you by Konica Minolta, John Ranigan. A hat trick and an assist, 4 points, as he leads the way to another victory over a top 5 opponent.
Power and speed, the ability to shoot from about 10 yards on the run, left-handed and right-handed. North-south, get out of the way when Ranigan gets a running. The assist to Palmer, he had a hockey assist. He was really a one-man show for Hopkins in their settled offensive sets.
The last time Johns Hopkins had back-to-back wins over a top 5 opponent, championship weekend 2005, also against ACC teams. First it was Virginia, Then it was Duke. Now on Monday, it'll be Johns Hopkins being in the top 5. Quentin, you've seen them 2 weeks in a row. Are the Blue Jays back?
Defense is good. This team is improving, getting better every week. Confidence is there now. To me, they're a legitimate top 5 or 6 team in the country.
If North Carolina can figure out the first quarter of lacrosse games, they're going to be a very tough team to beat. Getting off these slow starts has just been killer.
Up next for Johns Hopkins, Friday night against Albany. That will be on ESPNU. For the Tar Heels, at Virginia, noon on ESPN. Once again, our final score of Game 1 of the Conoco Minolta Big City Classic, 10-9, Johns Hopkins wins it. Coming up next, Warrior Pro Sessions. That will be followed by Game 2, number 1 Syracuse against number 3 Duke. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For Quint Kesenick and Matt Ward, I'm Eamon McEnany. We'll see you in about 30 minutes with number 1 against number 3.